Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. Guys, we're taking a look today at a breaking news update as the New Jersey Devils have made a trade with the Colorado Avalanche here ahead of the expansion draft. We're not terribly surprised that this was the move that we saw. We'll be getting into it in this video. So, just to summarize, the Colorado Avalanche acquire Russian 23-year-old winger Mikhail Maltsev and a 2020 second-round pick from the Devils, which the Devils got that second-round pick from the New York Islanders last year. So this is technically the New York Islanders' second-round pick. Interesting how the Avalanche, who traded both their second-round picks last year for Devon Toews, now get a second-round pick from the New York Islanders back in some weird way, but that is the trade. Mikhail Maltsev and a 2020 second-round pick from the Islanders. In exchange, the New Jersey Devils acquire 26-year-old 6'5" defenseman Ryan Graves. This is a great trade for both teams. Now, some people are already saying, oh, the Avs got fleeced, this and that. If you look at the grand scheme of things, the Avalanche were going to do the 7-3 protection, which meant that one of their defensemen, likely Ryan Graves, would have been left unprotected to Seattle and would have obviously gotten picked because of how well he's played this season, really the last two seasons, with the Colorado Avalanche. So it really isn't much of a surprise that the Avalanche thought, you know what, we're a team that isn't win-now mode, but if we're going to lose a guy like Ryan Graves, we might as well try and get some assets for him. And they pick up a second-round pick and a young Russian forward that he's going to step into their lineup, and he's going to come in a lot cheaper than some other big free agents that could be available in the bottom six. Definitely kind of a guy that could replace a guy like Brandon Saad. He only had 9 points in 33 games with the Devils last season, so he's obviously not a cornerstone piece to your franchise. He's not this superstar top six winger that they're acquiring, but they're getting a decent player. And again, at 23 years old, he still has time to develop. And maybe under Jared Bednar and the Avalanche, maybe they could get more out of him. And that's kind of the mindset for the Devils. This is a huge trade. This changes their expansion draft situation just a little bit. You obviously assume that they are going to keep guys like Damon Severson, potentially Jonas Siegenthaler, and probably more than likely now, Ryan Graves, which means you're going to leave unprotected guys like Ryan Murray, PK Subban, and Will Butcher. So you could have argued before this trade they probably would have kept a guy like Will Butcher around. But now that they've got Ryan Graves, they may leave those guys to the Seattle Kraken to take. Now, I don't see the Devils necessarily making a trade to keep, to make sure they don't take one of those guys. It just doesn't really make much sense. I would assume, though, that they would probably take a guy like Will Butcher, who did have a good season at one point. Maybe they see something in him. Or do they take Ryan Murray? The problem with Ryan Murray is he is a pending unrestricted free agent. So why are you going to go take the free agent that you could get in a couple weeks? It may make more sense for them to go after somebody else. And I don't see them taking on PK Subban's contract and helping out the Devils. But this is a good move for both sides. Like I said, the Avalanche can now protect their three big defensemen. And at the end of the day, Ryan Graves was a great player, but I hate to say it for the Avs, they're still going to lose a good defenseman. They could still lose a guy like Connor Timmins or Jacob McDonald, who both played very well down the stretch for the Avalanche. So it sucks. They're probably going to lose now potentially two of those guys in their really good blue line that they had last year, but that's kind of how this thing works. I guess they figure they'd rather lose Connor Timmins for nothing than lose Ryan Graves for nothing. And that's kind of where the Avalanche, Joe Sakic, was kind of at in this trade. Honestly, like I said, you're not looking at Ryan Graves as a number one defenseman, not even a top pairing defenseman. This is a guy, he's going to come in and he's just going to add some depth. He's going to add a little bit of grit, a little bit of snarl, just a little bit of he's going to be difficult to play against. And at 6'5", 225 pounds, I think they have him listed. He's a big boy. And this is a good thing, too, because, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Because I know the Devils fans want to see some of the young defensemen like Kevin Ball, Nikita Okatiuk, Riley Walsh, Michael Vukojevic, those guys are going to develop in Utica next year, and maybe they don't push those guys into a role next year because they have more depth on the blue line now with a guy like Ryan Graves. Ryan Graves does have one more year left on his contract. I assume that had something to do with why Joe Sakic decided he was the guy that was the odd man out, because he is going to ask for probably a big chunk of change next summer as a restricted free agent, and I think it just made sense for the Avalanche to stick with what they have, keep Connor Timmins, keep McDonald, keep those guys, and continue to develop them. And unfortunately, maybe moving on up from a guy in Ryan Graves that they ideally would have liked to have kept for another playoff run, but with the expansion draft, it just wasn't going to happen for the Avs. Who won this trade? I hate to say it, but I'm going to go with the best player in this trade, and that is Ryan Graves. The Devils won the trade as of today. Now, if that second rounder turns into the next Nikita Kucherov or the next great defenseman that's a Norris Trophy winner, then the Avalanche win this trade in 5 years from now. But as of right now, I go off of who got the best player in the trade, and that is, in fact, who they got here in... Why do I keep forgetting his name? Ryan Graves. So he kind of fits the Devils theme with the Devils, and now you have a guy named Graves on your team. If only they could have had a guy named Satan. That didn't end up working out. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who do you think won this trade? It's a good trade overall, but again, the expansion draft, I'm sure this is not the last trade we're going to see here up until Saturday. But let me know what you guys think down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you guys next time.